So number 8 has given somebody some trouble, so I figured I'd upload a video. Usually when one person asks about it, somebody else is just going, I hope it just goes away. So I've chosen to do the second equation because it's a little funkier, but it doesn't really matter too much for this question because mostly we're just doing straight reads. So what we see here is that it's asking for the vertex. So I know that this is my y equals a times x minus p squared plus q format. And so this is my p and this is my q. So my vertex is going to be -8 because I switched the sign on p, and -1 because q is a straight read. So that goes there, that goes there. My domain for this one, it's a quadratic equation. My domain will be x is in the realm of all real numbers. Because if I were to draw this thing, it would be like this or like this, right? Which means it's going to keep expanding this way and not have any interruptions. So the range, on the other hand, we have to be a little more careful about, and I wouldn't do it in this order. I would actually look to this question first. It opens down, right? Because there's a negative here. So that's how I know it opens down, which means I know it's going to be one of these kinds of graphs. In fact, we could even do sort of a sketch of this because we know that the vertex is at -8 and -1, so over here somewhere, and we know that it opens down. Now, there is a -1/4 thing, so this isn't going to be exactly how it looks, but we know from this and from this that this is a general assumption we can make. Why is that important? Well, it can help us with the range. The range is at -1 and down. So that means our range is y is equal to -1, and it goes down from -1, so it's less than -1 as well. Now my axis of symmetry is simply x equals -8, because that's where my axis of symmetry is going to be. The intercepts are a little trickier though, because for my intercepts, I want to know for my y-intercept, x is 0, and for my x-intercept, y is 0. So what I'm going to do is actually plug 0 into the equation to find the y-intercept. So -1/4, 0 plus 8 squared minus 1. So 0 plus 8 is 8, squared is 64. So -1/4 of 64 minus 1. 64 divided by 4. I know you have a calculator, it's easier for you, but 16, should have known that. Anyway, -14, or 1/4 of 64 though, so -1/4 of 64 would be -16 minus 1, so I've got -17. So that means that I have x is 0, my y-intercept will be -17. Now, for my x-intercept, y is 0. So that means that I'm going to have to put my equation, I'm just going to get rid of this. For my x-intercept, y is 0. So I put the whole equation equal to 0 and solve for x. So I can move my 1 over. 1 equals -1/4 x plus 8 squared, and I want to move this over, so it's going to be 1 over -1/4. So 1 divided by 1/4 is the same as 1 times 4, so it would be -4 equals x plus 8 squared. Take the square up, can't do a square root of a negative number, so there is no x-intercept. So that's fine. What we're going to do now, we've solved everything they asked us to solve, but then in B it's like, oh, graph it. Great, I gotta graph it. So to graph it, I'm gonna do a slightly nicer version of this. And I would still do my point at -8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 down. So my vertex is going to be at -8 and -1. I know that it goes down because it opens down, and I also know that my y-intercept was, my y-intercept was at -17. So I would go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There. And I could roughly sketch it just by connecting these points, but I'd probably want to actually throw in another value and get at least one more point there. So if I were to throw in, well, I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but maybe a 6. -6. Y equals -1/4. This is just for our extra point. Y equals -1/4. -6 plus 8 squared minus 1. I choose 6 because I figure it's going to give me a whole number. Because if I go -6 plus 8, it's going to give me 2. Squared, it's going to give me 4, which is going to get rid of this. So you could choose any number and you'll just have a decimal. I just wanted to pick one that would give me a whole number. So -1/4, -6 plus 8 is 2, squared is 4, so times 4 minus 1. I'm just going to keep going this way. -1/4 times 4 is just -1 minus 1 gives me -2. So I should have the point of -6 and -2 here, which will just give me that nice shape to the graph that I want as it goes down, and it's going to be mirrored on this side. So it's a sketch of the graph. It doesn't have to be point by point by point by point, but you do want to have a couple of valid points in there so that you can see your thinking is nice and clear, and that you get all of the individual bits and pieces. Now, you can go ahead and try the first equation if you have it, and if you have any more trouble, let me know.